Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to SF Commons. Tonight we have a very special guest, Mr. Ellison Horne, who is a professional videographer. He has produced hundreds of documentaries, interviewed hundreds of people, and in his efforts to bring forth to the public news that otherwise the mainstream media does not cover and does not want you, the public, to know. Well, maybe or maybe not you've heard of WikiLeaks' latest expose about what our government is doing, namely the agency, the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency. So I have not seen any discussion of these WikiLeaks, they call it dumps, in the mainstream media. I see stories, we've seen stories in the internet perhaps, but here we have Mr. Ellison Horne to talk about what these represent. But as a backdrop, before we get into a discussion as to the relevance of this WikiLeaks expose about the CIA's maneuverings, the CIA's work, why is this important to you and to me? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the United States Constitution protects our individual rights, our civil rights. Our founding fathers made sure that when the Republic of the United States of America is created, that people like you and me, the ordinary citizens, the ordinary people, have a right to hold our government accountable, to make our government acknowledge and put into effect the fact that we have civil rights that they cannot violate. Unfortunately, through decades of brainwashing by the mainstream media, through decades of not of the American people not being informed, we've grown complacent. We've taken things for granted. We've taken things like the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, our fundamental rights being ignored and being violated. What are these amendments? Well, let's start with the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment says that the government does not have the right to search and seize persons and or personal properties, our properties. The Fifth Amendment says that we have the right not to incriminate ourselves. The 14th Amendment and the Fifth Amendment says that the government cannot deprive us our lives, liberty, and property without due process of law, meaning notice and a hearing. And that the Constitution guarantees us that we have privacy, that what we do in the privacy of our own home or anywhere where we have an expectation of privacy is not violated. Now, the WikiLeaks expose about what the CIA has been doing negates all of that. And here we have Mr. Ellison Horne to talk about that. Well, Ellison,
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it.
So tell the public what this WikiLeaks expose is, because you have been reading about it. I've seen your blog, I've seen your coverage, and in your Facebook, and you've been talking about it. So,
yes,
brother, talk about it.
Thank you. Well, as you know, I've been using my Facebook page for a number of years now as a blog.
Right.
And I've noticed just since the last presidential campaign, the Democratic convention, my Facebook volume is almost maxed. So
Wow.
over 1,000
Yes.
people have come on because people are really very concerned about the lack of information, and they're looking for other sources.
Exactly.
And they're going to the internet. So it's a great thing that we have that resource.
Until the government finds a way to try
undermine
to
it
control
or
that, undermine it.
yes.
Hopefully not, but it takes a fight. Everything's a fight. So.
Absolutely. And with the WikiLeaks, I find there needs to be more of an education process so the public really understands that this is a major benefit to the public.
Right.
In the same way that the GAO, which used to be called the General Accounting Office, Congress set up in 1922, the GAO is now called the Government Accountability Office. So there's a big difference between accounting and accountability. And the same goes in this situation with WikiLeaks. They do not investigate. They publish, and
Right.
they organize content so that it is easy for the public to be able to read and cipher and determine what the
Right.
facts are and form their opinions based on truth.
Right.
Uh,
And WikiLeaks has a record. They're very proud to say that
yes.
they've never been wrong
Yes.
in the
In
last
10
10
years,
years.
yes, yes.
And that they publish millions of
Yeah.
documents
Yes.
about governments all over the world.
Yes.
So it's not just about America.
Absolutely
Right.
not just about America. I'm glad you said that too, so that people don't think, why are they?
Right.
It is an incredible
And the
resource.
head, the founder of
Julian
WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, poor guy is holed up in the basement of the Ecuadorian embassy in the UK, United Kingdom, where he's been granted a political asylum because there's forces who want to extradite him, particularly the U.S., because they do not like the kind of truth that he brings forth to educate people about what's really going on.
Yeah, that's their mission. That's
Exactly,
their mandate
exactly.
to do that. And I found that in my own investigation,
Right.
my job, I think, where I've been most useful is helping people connect the dots.
Right,
There's
right.
so much good information out there. It gets confusing when there's bad information too.
Exactly.
So it really takes a level of acumen to be able to sift through it and pull out things. In my case, I just happen to be connecting the right dots.
Right.
And a lot of what I've done the past couple of years now is being revealed to be true because of WikiLeaks. But I did want to say in understanding the value of what it is that they have, this recent release
Right.
that you were saying about the CIA, that is probably the most sacred sanctorium that we have in
Right.
our government, and it's not really a part of. It's separate, actually.
Right.
It has really very little accountability, including a lack of accountability to the president.
Right.
So, and that was mandated back in the 1940s,
Right.
just after it was established by President Truman. So,
Right.
in 1963, Truman felt it was absolutely critical that he write an article. Actually, the article was published in 1963 in the Washington Post, where he expresses his deep regret for creating the CIA,
Right.
and that he felt very strongly, and the word he used, he felt strongly that it needed to be terminated.
Well, John F. Kennedy wanted to splinter the
Yes.
CIA into
Yes.
thousands of pieces and
Yes,
spread
yes.
them in the air, then he
Yeah.
was killed.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And of course, there are a number of factors with that, but certainly that. And now we have WikiLeaks that has come forward with information that is just beginning to be rolled out, and already it's deeply alarming.
Yeah, scary.
Because it violates the very credos that you were mentioning that are
Right.
part of our Constitution, that are bedrock of our Constitution.
And let's talk about them. Okay, so WikiLeaks says that the CIA can. I mean, this is massive surveillance of
Yeah.
everybody. If you guys have watched Snowden, the movie by Oliver Stone, when another CIA member or N.S.A. Staff was talking to Snowden, saying, "Snow White, we are looking at the entire kingdom."
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. You
The
know.
entire kingdom, meaning what? You and me and everybody else is like. That is mind-boggling.
And it's not just that somebody is sitting there making notes on what you're doing every day.
Exactly.
No, but they're aggregating our information so that
Exactly.
it can be databased and then pulled out if there are certain concerns about
Right,
conversations that we
Right.
have with our friends and so forth. They have the technology that the public is totally unaware of the caliber of technology that we have now.
Exactly.
It's
Well, let's
frightening.
start with the key stuff, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
WikiLeaks is talking about tapping our cell phones, iPhones or Android.
Yes.
Android is every single person's cell phone, right?
Yeah.
So, what? They could hear
Yeah.
and tap and
Yes.
and surveillance and subject
Yes.
all of our conversations?
Yes. As you know, I've been designing posters, putting memes out there
Right.
to help bring greater awareness. And the
Right.
most recent one is I'm urging people to, when they purchase a cell phone, to make sure that they have the capacity to pull the battery out
Right.
easily. These new phones that we have now,
Right.
you cannot take the battery out, and that's made that way so that the access between the service provider and the
Yeah.
owner is more accommodating to what the person actually needs. In other words, there's what do they call it, when they're aggregating and they're pulling in information.
Right. Are just archiving them, yeah.
Yes.
Until when? Until they need.
Until they need.
And they need it. I mean, we all say something stupid,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
There are some people who've heard about it, and some people react this way, like, well, but I have nothing to hide. I don't do anything criminal. I don't do anything bad. But that's not the issue. The point is, we all do and say something stupid.
Yeah.
And if we have to live in a society where we have to watch everything we say, every single word, what kind of society is that? What kind of... We've lost our freedom.
Yeah. It's the worst
We
nightmare.
can be talking to our dog, or to our cat, or to our kids, or we say something like anything.
Yeah.
And what, the CIA, the government can come up and say something later and say, you said this at such and such a date.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think back and thought, I said that? When did I do that?
And they have software that actually is already converting your words into text so that the database can be made in a way that they can access certain topics, certain
That is terrible.
keywords, or what have you. Or if you belong to an organization, I mean, if you think about the ramifications of this, it really is beyond anything even Orwell imagined.
In 1984,
yes, in 1984.
That's just horrible.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, if we back up a little bit and find out how this is, why are we so concerned about it now, far beyond our concern prior to 9/11, and what is the role of 9/11? Well,
Which a lot of people have said to be a false flag, right?
and the Washington Post and FRONTLIINE, the
Right.
documentary, the PBS documentary production enterprise, published their findings in 2010. They did a 2-year investigation
Right.
of something that they called Top Secret America. And there was alarm that all of a sudden, and everything seemed, as they were saying, as they say in the video, stems from 9/11.
Right.
After 9/11, the neocons got the funding they needed to create a...
You mean the warmongers, the people whose business it is to
And
make wars.
I'll use the term empire because it really is,
Yeah,
because we're
right.
talking about over 1 million people have been hired since 9/11, and most of them have the classification of top secret. There are thousands of facilities that have been built now, some of them like 4 stories above the ground, but they go 10 stories down.
Right.
So in this little video clip, I want to show you some of the highlights of the investigation that was done.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it that I've discovered, what they didn't know they were documenting was actually the rise of the deep state.
This is by far the longest and most difficult project I've ever done. So far, we're in it a year and a half.
She's won 2 Pulitzer Prizes for investigative reporting. Now Dana Priest has a new story.
I'm having interviews with FBI, with the CIA, with N.S.A., with, just you name it. I've done hundreds of interviews, both in person and on the phone, and at all different levels.
She's trying to uncover the vast and hidden apparatus of the war on terror.
It is like a gigantic onion. The peeling back the layers just has continued and continued and continued. And it's growing. So how do you even get your arms around that and say, what is this world?
To tell the story, Priest formed an alliance with military expert and reporter William Arkin. Arkin lives in Vermont and works in his barn.
I like to catalog, list, and create databases and understand the totality of things.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Once competitors, now Arkin and Priest are working together.
It was a cautious dance between two people who are very secretive. But eventually we realized we were looking at exactly the same thing.
He is a compulsive collector of information. And he's got his secret computers.
Using the tools of the web, they began to build a map, trying to identify what some in Washington call the dark side.
But this has been totally revamped since 9/11, completely. And so there's the helicopter pad for the helicopter that would come in from the White House. And here's the entrance to the bunker.
Everything lives somewhere. So if we can start to map it,
Two satellite receivers.
then maybe we could actually do sort of an alternative geography that you can't see because it's purposely hidden from you.
It's like a Cold War model superimposed on top of the post 9/11 world. What I started to do is physically catalog the top secret America, the pieces of our government, our military, our homeland security apparatus, and our corporate world that were doing top secret work.
They began to uncover a massive hidden world of military, government, and private organizations.
Here's all of General Dynamics in the country.
Oh my goodness! It's something that I felt after covering the military for so many years and then the CIA. There was something out there that was not there before 9/11, and it was growing.
So Priest asked Washington Post photographer Michael Williamson to take pictures of the hidden sites Arkin was finding.
So can we just go over what you have?
Sure. This is the picture that I went up to that credit union place. It's all surrounded with signs like this. It is
For the rest of my life, I will never see the world the same way again, especially around Washington.
Yeah. So had it not been for the leaves off the trees and at night, you would never see this thing.
And yet it's gigantic.
Yeah.
These buildings
Well, I
that
checked all the maps.
they might only be 4 stories high, but they go down 10 stories. And there's a whole world down there, like shops and places to eat and that you don't know about. That's just for them.
They are top secret intelligence buildings. And one day, as Williamson approached one of them, he was taken by surprise.
Cars, I don't know where they came from. I thought they dropped out of the sky and pinned me up against the curb. I wasn't even completely turned around. The creepy part about it was they didn't do anything for a couple minutes. And I literally saw commandos, coming out of the trees. They had masks and big jackets and heavy weaponry and just humorless, quiet guys the size of, bears.
And where were you at that time?
I was stuck behind the wheel, ordered to keep my hands on the wheel.
Priest decided to personally verify the actual buildings Arkin's web work had uncovered. Hundreds of secret locations hiding in plain sight in office parks.
And this is a gate to the N.S.A.?
Yeah, there's a government facility back in there. You'll see it better after we turn down this road.
I met Dennis over the phone. I was looking for a realtor that might be able to take me around and show me the geography of what, in my mind, is this cluster, this density of top secret America.
You've got Titan in here, CSC is in one of these buildings, General Dynamics, security station here at the front where they check out the cars and look underneath.
Yeah, so maybe you should put the camera down now.
You just never know who's watching over here.
It is a world that has gotten so big. I think we're up to close to 500 organizations.
It's right through those trees.
And 2,000 contracting companies that do top secret work. So you lease them the building, but you have no idea what they...
Well, you don't ask. You need it when, you need how much, and then you get out of the way.
There are close to 1 million people who are living in this different world. This has gotten so big, it's impossible to manage.
17,000 locations, 1,300 government entities, 3,666 private sector entities, 1,200 government agencies. When you stop and look at the sheer scale of it, it's an extraordinarily difficult story to report by virtue of what it is that we're trying to describe, which is top secret America.
The stories are breaking in the Washington Post, taking the measure of just how big, powerful, and unmanageable top secret America has become since 9/11.
Counter drugs,
The names are really
counter
wild.
IED.